After a dimension-hopping mishap, Rick C-137 encounters a version of himself who remembers every death, every reset, every horrific outcome across all dimensions. This Rick Prime Omega has been driven to the brink of cosmic madness by the accumulated trauma, and he has a plan to end the cycle of suffering by destroying the entire multiverse. Our Rick must confront a horrifying reflection of his own potential for despair and destruction. It started, as many of Rick's adventures did, with a seemingly innocuous invention. He called it the Continuum Calibrator, a device designed to fine-tune interdimensional travel, to pinpoint specific realities with greater accuracy. Morty, naturally, was skeptical. "Aw, geez, Rick," Morty whined. "Are you sure this is safe? Last time you fine-tuned something, we ended up in a dimension where everyone pooped chairs." Rick scoffed, taking a swig from his flask. "Relax, Morty. This is different. This is precision. This is science." He burped loudly, emphasizing his point. He activated the device, a swirling vortex of green energy opening before them. But instead of the usual smooth transition, the portal flickered, sputtered, and then exploded in a shower of sparks and distorted energy. When the smoke cleared, they found themselves in a dimension unlike any they had ever seen. It wasn't a bizarre alien landscape, nor a cartoonish parody of their own world. It was empty. A vast white void stretched in all directions, devoid of any features, any landmarks, any life. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of Rick's damaged portal gun. "What the?" Rick muttered, his usual bravado replaced by a flicker of genuine unease. "This isn't right. This isn't anywhere." Then they heard a voice, a familiar voice but twisted, distorted, filled with an unimaginable weariness and despair. "You shouldn't be here," the voice echoed through the void. "This is the space between spaces, the place where memories go to die." A figure emerged from the whiteness, slowly coalescing into the familiar form of Rick Sanchez. But this Rick was different. His lab coat was tattered and stained, his hair was wild and unkempt, his eyes were hollow sockets filled with a swirling, galaxy-like void. He was gaunt, emaciated, his skin stretched taut over his bones, as if he hadn't eaten or slept in centuries. This was not the cynical, sarcastic Rick they knew. This was a broken Rick, a haunted Rick, a Rick who had seen too much, experienced too much, remembered too much. Who are you?" Morty stammered, his voice trembling. The Rick smiled, a chilling, humorless expression that sent shivers down their spines. "I am you, Rick. Or rather, I am all of you. I am the Rick who remembers. I am Rick Prime Omega." Rick Prime Omega explained his horrifying existence. He was the result of a similar interdimensional mishap, a glitch in the fabric of reality that had trapped him in this void, forcing him to witness every death, every reset, every horrific outcome across all dimensions. He remembered every time he had died, every time Morty had died, every time the universe had been destroyed and rebuilt. He remembered everything. The accumulated trauma, the sheer weight of infinite suffering, had driven him to the brink of madness. He had become obsessed with ending the cycle, with finding a way to stop the endless loop of creation and destruction. And he had found a solution. He had spent eons in the void, studying the fabric of reality, learning the secrets of the multiverse, harnessing the power of the space between spaces. He had developed a device, a weapon, capable of collapsing all dimensions, of erasing all realities, of bringing about a final, absolute end to everything. There is only one way to achieve true peace, Rick. Rick Prime Omega said, his voice a chilling whisper. To end the suffering, you must end the source. You must end existence. Rick C-137, the cynical, nihilistic scientist who had always claimed to be above morality, above sentimentality, was horrified. He had faced countless threats, had witnessed unimaginable horrors. But this was different. This was a threat to everything, to everyone, born from the very fabric of his own existence. He tried to reason with Rick Prime Omega, to appeal to the remnants of their shared humanity, but it was no use. The Rick before them was too far gone, too consumed by his own trauma, his own madness. "You don't understand, Rick," Rick Prime Omega said, his voice filled with a chilling pity. "You haven't seen what I've seen. You haven't felt what I've felt. You haven't remembered what I remember. Death is a mercy. Oblivion is a gift, and I am going to give that gift to everyone." The final confrontation takes place within the void, a battle not of science or technology, but of wills, of ideologies, of the very meaning of existence. He tried to reason with Rick Prime Omega, to appeal to the remnants of their shared humanity, but it was no use. The Rick before them was too far gone, too consumed by his own trauma, his own madness. "You don't understand, Rick," Rick Prime Omega said, his voice filled with a chilling pity. "You haven't seen what I've seen. You haven't felt what I've felt. You haven't remembered what I remember. Death is a mercy. Oblivion is a gift, and I am going to give that gift to everyone." The final confrontation takes place within the void, a battle not of science or technology, but of wills, of ideologies, of the very meaning of existence. Rick C-137, forced to confront his own potential for darkness, his own nihilistic tendencies, must find a way to stop Rick Prime Omega, to save the multiverse, to prove that even in a chaotic, uncaring universe, life, in all its messy, painful glory, is worth fighting for. He uses his own knowledge of interdimensional travel, his own understanding of the multiverse, to create a counter device, a weapon that will not destroy but reconnect, that will reinforce the fabric of reality, that will heal the wounds inflicted by Rick Prime Omega. But to activate the device, he needs Morty. He needs Morty's innocence, his unwavering optimism, his inherent goodness, to counterbalance the darkness, the despair, the nihilism of Rick Prime Omega. Morty, terrified but resolute, agrees to help. He stands beside Rick, his hand on the device, his presence a beacon of hope in the vast, empty void. The battle is a clash of cosmic forces, a struggle between oblivion and existence, between despair and hope. Rick Prime Omega, fueled by the accumulated trauma of infinite realities, unleashes a torrent of destructive energy, threatening to consume them all. But Rick C-137, drawing on his own love for Morty, on his own hidden capacity for compassion, on his own stubborn refusal to give in to despair, fights back. He channels his scientific genius, his improvisational skills, his own chaotic energy into the counter-device. In the end, it is not Rick's intelligence, but Morty's unwavering belief in him, in the good within him, that tips the balance. The counter-device activates, sending a wave of energy through the void, repairing the damage, reconnecting the fractured realities, pushing Rick Prime Omega back into the nothingness from whence he came. Rick Prime Omega is defeated, his plan for multiversal destruction thwarted. But he is not destroyed, he is simply contained, trapped once again in the void, forced to continue his endless, agonizing existence. Rick and Morty return to their own dimension, shaken, scarred, but alive. They have saved the multiverse, but the experience has changed them forever. Rick, forced to confront his own potential for darkness, His own nihilistic tendencies begins to question his own methods, his own beliefs. He realizes that even in a chaotic, uncaring universe, there is value in connection, in compassion, in hope. Morty, having witnessed the true horror of the multiverse, the potential for infinite suffering, emerges with a newfound appreciation for life, for the simple joys, for the bonds of family and friendship. The story ends with Rick and Morty sitting on the couch watching TV, a seemingly normal scene. But beneath the surface there is a new understanding, a new awareness of the fragility of reality, of the constant threat of the void. Rick looks at Morty, a flicker of genuine affection in his eyes. He puts his hand on Morty's shoulder, a rare gesture of comfort. "Morty," he says, his voice softer than usual, Don't ever forget, even when things seem pointless, even when it feels like nothing matters, there's always something worth fighting for." He doesn't elaborate, he doesn't need to. Morty understands. The camera pans out, showing the seemingly normal scene, but then it flickers. Just for a moment, a brief, almost imperceptible glitch in the image, a hint of the void. A reminder that Rick Prime Omega is still out there, that the memories remain, that the cycle of suffering could begin again. The multiverse is infinite, and so are the possibilities for horror. The threat is contained, but not eliminated, and Rick knows it. He remembers, and he will never be the same.